Forgive me if I recap. I had to stop the videos and go do something, and I'm back, and I can't remember if I covered this, but the shaking of the heavens and the earth, or the shaking of the powers of the heavens, as Christ says in Matthew 24, which is also mentioned in the 6th seal in Revelation. Heaven shall be shaken and the stars shall fall to earth. Paul said that the powers of the heavens, the principalities of rulers in dark places, high places, something like that, he's referring to Satan and all of his forces, his angelic evil army that seek to ruin the eternities of the children of God, to get us to sin, to oppose everything that God is doing. That's his goal. And they are the powers of the air, of this atmosphere on the earth. We don't see them, of course, but they're there, working, opposing everything that God is trying to do. And they're going to be shaken out. Why? They're going to be shaken to the earth to be judged. This is where there's going to be judgment. It also says at the beginning of Revelation that every eye shall see him, even those that pierced him. Well, those that pierced him on the cross, they've been dead. How are they going to see him? Because they're going to be raised up. Everyone's going to be on the earth, and the dead shall be raised to be judged. And that's how they're going to see him. And all the tribes of the earth will mourn at seeing him. Now let's look and see why they're mourning. If we read in chapter 6 again of Revelation, let's look at what everyone says. In verse 15, if all the kings of the earth, that means, the king of Iran, the king of Libya, Saudi Arabia, Palestine, you name it, all the kings of the earth, everyone, free men, bondmen, everyone says, fall on us to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Now there's one interesting thing here, and you'll miss it if you're not careful. They are not deceived. They know what's going on. Everyone who will see Christ coming for the day of judgment, for the great day of his wrath, they know what's happening. How do they know? Because they were told what was going to happen. They've seen something in the sky that they were told that they were going to see when Christ came back. And they didn't think it was going to happen maybe, but now they see it and they say, oh no, they were right. I've been told what's going to happen and I can't bear to face it. And they'll cry out to the rocks to fall upon them. Hide me from this. And that's what it means by all the tribes will mourn when they see him. Listen, everyone says that, for the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? They will be educated as to what's going to be happening. Now, they were told what was going to happen, but they were deceived. The Antichrist, the beast that rose out of the pit, deceived them. They've taken his mark, the mark of the beast. And they know there's no hope for them. And they know what's going to happen to them. And that's why they're mourning. Now, and we also know that the great day of his wrath, when is that? Those are associated with the bowls and with judgment. How can the 6th seal happen if everything is chronological? We haven't even got to the trumpets or the bowls yet. That's because it isn't a strict chronology. These seals can be looked at by themselves as encompassing the entire time period, in my opinion. in your opinion, and others it may be something different, but I see definitely things here in the sixth seal that happen after. As Christ says, immediately after the tribulation, these things will happen. It's a time for judgment. And they say the day of his wrath. And when we talk about the bowl judgments later, they're called vials in the King James, but a bowl is a better translation. In those bowls are filled up the wrath of God, it says. Whenever we talk about wrath, we're talking about the bowls. The trumpets are not talked about as such. We say trumpet judgments, but they're not really judgments. Trumpets warn of something's coming up. They were always blown in Israel before a feast. There is a feast that we're going to talk about later. And war. A righteous war that Christ will wage against all sinners. It'll be a quick war. So this time of wrath they're talking about, I believe, is at the end. And we're talking about it here in the sixth seal. Okay, so to sum up, I apologize for maybe beating things to death, but I want you to get it. Sometimes we have to hear it more than once, huh? I do. If we look at the seals as a whole here, we have the first four, which are indicative of the whole time period, and they will increase in their intensity as time goes on through the whole 7 years. The fifth seal of martyrdom, which will mainly be in effect in that second half. The sixth seal, very interesting, a lot of things happening there. Sun goes dark. Christ's power and working and protection for the saints will be removed, and therefore the moon or the saints will turn to blood. And then the stars will fall from heaven because they're shaken out. God shakes them out because it's time for them to be judged. And all of us that are going to sit on thrones and judge. And again, I said I have no desire to be a judge, but if Christ has that will for us to do it, then we'll want to do it, and we'll understand, and we'll obey Him. It'll be time for the angels to be judged, and men will be raised for their judgment. And they're crying out to hide us from this wrath, and the Lamb, the one who sits on the throne. Hide us from it. The deception is over. They know what's happening now. Then we get to the seventh seal. And we didn't talk about the seventh seal. I haven't got to that. Let's go ahead and do that. There is actually an interval between the sixth and the seventh seal. And we'll find that as a common theme here. There's also an interval between the sixth and seventh trumpet, and an interval between the trumpets and the bowls. So God gives us these symbols, and then He gives us kind of an aside or a little diversion here with some other things. And we read in chapter 7, "And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree." Now, I believe these 4 winds are the first 4 trumpets that we'll read about. If you want to peek ahead, you'll see that the things that the trumpets hold will be hurting the earth and the sea and the tree. And so these first four trumpets or first 4 winds, hold them back. Don't let that happen yet. And in verse 2 we read, "And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." So there are 4 angels are holding these winds back, the 4 things, the first 4 trumpets that are going to hurt the earth. But don't let that happen yet. Hold them back until these servants of God have been sealed in their foreheads. Now, I've read that these seals will be visible. You'll be able to see it on the forehead of everyone. I have no reason to believe otherwise. I'm not going to say for sure that that's what that will be, but anyway, they'll be sealed. And we read here, and I heard of them which were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Ha! So just like we said, God is turning back to Israel. He's finishing up all the loose ends with Israel. All of the things that He was going to accomplish and would be accomplished in those 70 weeks of Daniel, He's finishing up here. He put the very last part on hold, and now it's going to be finished up. So He's sealing the children, and they're going to be divided into 12 camps, just like the Old Testament, just like it. And remember, you can take the time when Christ was cut off, at His first coming, when He died on the cross, and then you can attach that like a puzzle piece to this last period here, and it'll fit right together. He's going to finish. The church age was just like taking those 2 puzzle pieces apart, inserting the church age, and then the church age is going to be gone. You put those 2 puzzle pieces back together, and they're going to finish. And I'm not going to read all of the tribes here, but you can read that if you want. And in verse 9, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations, kindreds, people, and tongues, stood before the throne, before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, and palms in their hands. Let's skip down to verse 13. One of the elders said to me, "What are these? Who are these who are arrayed in the white robes, and where do they come from?" Verse 14, and I said unto him, "Sir, thou knowest." "I don't know, but you know." And he said to me, "These are they which came out of great tribulation." The ones when the moon turned to blood, remember that? These are those. "And have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb." So these are the ones who were in the Great Tribulation, and they were martyrs. They got killed because of their faith and their belief and their refusal to accept the Antichrist as their Lord and Savior. So these are they. So we have a picture here in the 7th trumpet of all of these who were killed, and now they're in heaven, and it's a scene in heaven. It's one again where they're praising the Lord and blessing Him, and they're just worshiping Him. Now we read in verse 15, notice what they do. They serve Him day and night in His temple. And just like remember the 4 living creatures, how they worship God night and day? It said the same thing about those 4 living creatures. It says the same thing about this blood-washed multitude here. Interesting. And it says, verse 16, that they won't hunger anymore, nor thirst anymore, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. Now, if you know anything about the bowl judgments, you know they're going to be thirsty. All the water will be turned to blood. There'll be no drinking water. They're going to be thirsty. They're going to be hungry because there's famine. The sunlight upon them, when we read the, I think it's the 4th bowl judgment, there's going to be scorching heat. And that's where we see the sunlight on them nor any heat. So these are those who went through that. They went through the bowl judgments. They endured that. And that's not going to happen anymore, it says. They went through the bowl judgments that we're going to read about later, and that's not going to be like that anymore. They're going to serve Him in His temple day and night. And as we read at the end of verse 17, He shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. You know another place where He wipes all tears from their eyes? It's after the 1,000-year reign, where God makes a new heaven and new earth. And everybody who is sinful, who is not of Him, they go to the lake of fire. There's going to be more tears. He's going to wipe those away.